We've done some videos in recent days looking at some adaptable styles, format columns, percent bars, badge styles, and the questions that we've got as a result is how do these work with row grouping? Row grouping, as a quick refresher, is essentially what we've got here where we're grouping by language, and AgGrid allows you to see one group for all the rows which have that property. And additionally, you can provide aggregations at that level. So in this case here, we see a sum aggregation of everything in HTML group. So the question is, how does Adaptable's objects work with grouping? So the first thing to say is if there's no aggregation, then nothing happens at all. So for instance, if I go into here, and in fact, actually, let's make this full screen and let's do show code. And you can see here, we've got lots of values. So if I take all of these out, for instance, then we can see obviously that the entire row becomes blank. But let's now put them back. So the first thing we're going to look at is what happens when you do a format column. So basically the rule is in the format column, when you define it, and let's find our format column here, there is something called include grouped rows, and we will see that property in all the objects. So if it's true, as it is for this column here, then the format takes place as well. So you can see this column is formatted in blue, and because it's include grouped rows, then these three grouped rows are also blue. This one here, Stargazer's Count, that's GitHub stars, has include grouped rows as false, and that's why we see the red for the individual rows, but we don't for the format. So for format column, it's very simple. Include grouped rows will either show or not show the format if it's true or false. What happens if you do a percent bar? So let's now do a percent bar. Let's make this one max because that makes more sense as an aggregation if we're showing a percent bar. Let's start with open issues. So open issues, where's our percent bar? It's here, open issues, and that's include grouped rows as true, and that's why therefore when we look here we can see that the grouped row shows it. If that was to be false, then it would show whatever the format column had, or it would default to the aggregation. And this one for closed issues is another percent bar, but this time include grouped rows is false, and that's why we don't see the percent bar, but we see the format column. So essentially the percent bar takes precedence over the format column, and then a format column will show if or not if it's been given, and then ultimately obviously the most important property is the aggregated value. And then something very similar happens here with this badge style. So again, if we put these back, let's make these both sum. We can see here we've got two badge styles. We've got one on open PR count, that's this one, and that's include grouped rows is true, and that's why therefore we see the badge. And this one here, closed PR count is false, and that's why we don't see the badge. Now here we're seeing this in black and not in blue because it's picking up the underlying format column, and that format column is not to show in grouped rows. So if I was to go to this badge style and I was to go to settings and say don't show me in a grouped row, then you can see I just pick up the normal aggregation. So there we are, that's all there is to it. Essentially, the rule to remember is the percent bar and the badge style, they will show as their kind of styled element, so long as number one, include grouped rows is set to true, and number two, the column itself has an aggregation. If include grouped rows is set to false, but there's a format column for that column which has include grouped rows set to true, as we can see in this case here, then you get the format column. Otherwise, as you see here, you just get the aggregation. And as I say, if we turn the aggregation off altogether, then you see nothing, even if we have a badge style set for that column. So there we are. That's how you can use styled columns and format columns with AgGrid aggregations. Hope that answers the question. As always, thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more, have a personalised one-to-one demo of AdapTable, or try it out for yourself with our free, no obligation trial license, please get in touch and we look forward to hearing from you.